started my career in the shower, singing behind a curtain, pretty much. That's all I can say, pretty much. Nah, I started writing music when I was like 13, 14 at the All School. I was in a music program playing piano, keyboard, same shit. Pretty much.
My music career began, well, technically I've been writing since like 6th or 7th grade, but I didn't really see, it was more like poetry. I didn't really see rapping as like an alternative until I met Han in like 7th, 8th grade. He was like, oh yeah, I write too. So we'd write and whatnot, but then come like 10th grade, 11th grade, we were like, all right, he's like, oh, well, I record at my house. I got this little setup, you want to come through? And I was like, all right, I'll bring some of my notebooks. We did a couple tracks, they were all right, but then all of a sudden, like, I got my own setup, we went down and I got my own stuff, and it just went from there. Every day I was doing a song, and every day we'd be together, like, recording, freestyling something, like, we just stuck ever since.
The very first thing I ever did that was music oriented was beatboxing. It was the year after I finished high school. My first roommate at the school that I went to played a track for me by this guy named Razel. He's a famous beatboxer. He used to be on The Roots, and he was singing and beatboxing at the same time, which I thought was dope. So I picked it up, and really with hip hop, that's what I did for a long time. And I mean, I met Han too from WortownzFinezt when I was working in New Hampshire, and he was a freestyle rapper, and you know that got me interested in just like the process of making music. So I decided to pick that up as well. I started writing and I started performing with this group whenever I could.
Music has always been a big part of my life. When I was younger, my parents would karaoke and stuff, so I would karaoke around with them. And then I had a cousin that flew in from the West Coast, and I listened to a lot of West Coast music. And then I also listened to a lot of Biggie because he was blowing up at the time. So I just started getting into writing like 7th, 8th grade when I realized I loved music, and then I was good at English and put words together in poetry, writing poems, whether it was for girls, whether it was for myself. So that's really how I started getting into writing.
At the age of 14, I started, not really music, that's where I started writing, because my friend Javon actually kind of got me into it. And so from there on out, that's just when I just jumped on the bandwagon and took off with it.
Because I wanted the fans to feel what I feel when I write my music. So, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to get into that R&B tip because pretty much Boys to Men like stepped their game up, so I wanted to be up there where they were, how they inspired mad people. Right? Pretty much that.
To write tracks? Well, like, it kind of like, the way I write tracks is whatever mood I'm in. Like, I can't write a love track if like I'm depressed about something, you know? Like, I like to write about my emotions and like how I feel. And then there's when I do my punchline tracks or my cocky tracks. Like, I need to be in like a good mood. I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to go do something. I'm ready to battle. And like, I'll look around. I'll see something. I can compare it to something else. Like, I'm pretty good at like making words connect. And like, I'm kind of like a smooth talker, so I can get it all like together, you know.
I think you can find inspiration in the everyday, you know. So like, I don't feel like the audience that I'm gearing myself towards would feel me as much if I was talking about things that they don't know anything about, you know? So like big money, big jewels, like all of this stuff, like that's not who I'm trying to gear myself towards. I'm not trying to gear myself towards like big players. So with that said, my inspiration is in the everyday. So like sitting, waiting at a bus stop, like working at like a fast food restaurant, like, you know, difficulties with your relationships. Like these are all things that inspire me because like the best songs I've ever written have come shortly after I've had strong feelings in these areas. So that's my inspiration.
How do I get inspired to write tracks? I get inspired mostly from the pure emotion that I feel. Like if on the day, like my ex-girlfriend just broke up with me, then I'll write about that. Or if I'm feeling like, if I feel like I look good or whatever, then it might be a conceited track. Or if like my friends passed, like I would write about that. My parents divorced, it'll be whatever at that time I feel like I need to express, but I can't really express it, then that's what I write about. So that's how I write about the track. Or if the beat hits me a certain way, then that's what I write about. So those are how I get inspired to write the tracks.
How I get inspired is I sit back, I put on a beat that I like, and I try to make the beat something people can relate to, that inspires like an emotional beat. Like I'll sit back and basically what kind of inspires me is the hook. Like if I like the hook, then I'm jumping right on that, and I'm writing my 16 and I'm trying to write the best 16 I can, and that's it.
Brian McKnight, Boyz II Men, definitely also, that's one of the tops. I'm more like an R&B instead of the hip hop status. Who else? Temptations, definitely. Even though it's a bootleg group that they just made up, the 5 Heartbeats, they had some sick songs when they did some, like, it was like a TV show, but it was sick. They pretty much inspired me to write my music.
They basically come from life. Like, I'm not the type of person who wants to sit there and talk about how I feel. I'd be like, oh, I'm sad, oh, da da da. Instead, I'm much better at like putting it to a beat, putting it all together and talking about everything at once and just getting it all out. And I don't know, it's just like, it's like a stress reliever for me, or like, it's something I feel I need to do. Like people are like addicted to cigarettes, I'm addicted to recording, to freestyling, and battling. Hip hop is a culture, I'm addicted to it. Like I need it in my life for me to like keep it moving.
I think I have like a lot of influences, like musically, like music-wise, as far as like producing my music. I think that like Immortal Technique, artists like most that, like these are like people who are storytellers, and so, you know, whenever I listen to their music, like I'm always thinking like I want to be able to tell a story, like Slick Rick, like all of these people, like why are there very few storytellers, Raekwon, you know. I think from a musician standpoint, like I want to consider myself like a decent like performer. Like there's more to just being a hip hop. There's a difference between Nas and Jay-Z, you know, like one is a performer, one is a lyricist, and like, you know, that's why I don't like hate on people like Mickey Avalon, who people may not listen to his lyrical content, but he's a hell of a performer. People go like nuts when he's on stage. I think that as far as my influences go, it's where I grew up. I grew up in New York, so like I listen to a lot of Wu-Tang, I listen to a lot of New York artists. They'll grow if you're into that death rap kind of stuff, but if you're talking about like being a musician and being like a performer, like I'll listen to freaking, you know, Mickey Avalon as much as I'll listen to Sammy Davis Jr. You know, like these are all people that got your attention when they got on the stage. I don't want people to fall asleep at my concerts, you know.
My influences were my parents when I was younger, before I like karaoke stuff, and then my cousin came in from West Coast and played Coolio Gangsta's Paradise, played it over and over and over again, and then I finally memorized all the words, and then that was like my favorite song of all time. And then Biggie Hypnotized came out, and then people play all the time like it was a big song. And I memorized that, and then I remember when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, Jim came out. And I didn't know what freestyle battle was until I watched BT, and then they freestyle battle. And then this one I was like, oh, I can do that, let me try that. So I put my emotions into words and thinking on the top of the head. So those are my influences. But Tupac was a big influence also, because you know, he did what he wanted to do, and then he would talk about this, and then he'll bring it back like, oh yeah, women, you know, we expect women, love songs, whatever. So big ups to Tupac. I'm a huge Tupac fan, but he's a big influence in my life now.
Artist-wise, I'd have to say what actually really got me into hip-hop, because I was kind of like a little bit of a rocker, was Biggie. When I first heard Biggie, that kind of got me into hip-hop itself, and then as I started going listening to hip-hop, you know, Eminem got me into it, Nelly got me into it, and nowadays it's more of like, Drake is really what it is, because I look at Drake as someone like me. You know, he ain't from the hood, he ain't from the hard parts, he's from like a neighborhood where you don't gotta worry about that stuff. So he inspires me because he's just like me. Like, he's got his own problems that I can actually relate to in his songs. So he now inspires me to be what I can be.